Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the January 2nd, 2024 Crest City Council meeting to order at 7 o'clock p.m. I would ask that everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Chris.
Ray Solomon.
Here.
Glenn Conklin.
Present.
Scott Dyke.
Here.
John Burchett. Darrell Jefferson.
Here.
Claudia Gazal.
Here.
Tina Oberlin.
Present.
Mark Sapiti.
Here.
Nate Albert.
Here.
And Joe Kubal.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to extend the professional courtesy to our city attorney this evening, and I would ask council's concurrence to deviate from the agenda and to go to our city attorney, who will be handling the community development and number 5 and number 6 under the mayor's report. So with that, I will turn it over to our attorney, Mike Stiff. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and Happy New Year, and I thank your indulgence in going out of order since I have a regularly scheduled other commitment on Tuesdays, and since this is a normal Monday meeting that got bounced because of the holiday, I'm trying to be in 2 places at once, and I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. Number 3 under community development is consideration of a request by Reza's Automotive for a refund of a previously paid flagpole setback variance fee. If you recall, Reza's flagpole variance went through the Planning Commission. It came before council. It was unanimously approved. In addition to that, Mr. Reza asked that the fees for a residential flagpole setback variance be lowered because it makes it a little bit difficult on residents to be able to get a flagpole setback variance for commercial use, because the fee was $1,000, and if it was just a flagpole, he thought it should be something more in line with what the residents paid. We talked about how there's a little bit more involved with commercial, and so the council agreed on a recommendation from Steve Golden to go ahead and lower the fee and then consider Mr. Reza's request, not for a complete waiver. I think there was some thought that he was asking that the fee be waived. He was not asking that the fee be waived. He was just asking that the fee be lowered, so it's a little bit more in line with what the residents would pay for a commercial flagpole setback variance. It took a little while to get that through, but at the meeting or at the last meeting, you had a resolution that actually took care of that. What was recommended at the time was that you first lower the fee and then consider the refund request. So unfortunately, when the resolution got passed last week, the actual portion of the thing that came, the companion part that went with that, which was the refund, didn't get on the agenda. So as soon as you voted on it last meeting, I rolled my chair over to Ron Menser and I said, "What about the refund?" And he said, "Oh." So I said, let's get this on the agenda. I talked to the council about that. So basically what is before you is basically just what was talked about at the work session on September 25th. I emailed you all portions of the minutes with Steve's recommendation. So this is merely to formalize what Mr. Reza had made as far as a request that he be refunded $750 because he paid $1,000, which was what the setback fee was for a commercial flagpole. You have now changed that by ordinance to reflect $250 for a commercial flagpole setback variance, and so the refund would be $750.
So moved as presented.
Second. We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Sapiti, for consideration of the request by Reza's Automotive for a refund of $750 of the previously paid flagpole setback variance fee. Questions or comments of the motion? Roll call, please.
John Burchett.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sapiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
And Scott Dyke.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, then jumping to number 5, item number 5 under the mayor's report. As discussed in executive session, I believe there is going to be an appointment of Dave Strahl to continue as the interim Human Resources Manager. That appointment is being made by the mayor, so we need a appointment and then a vote.
With that, I would ask for a motion for the appointment of Mr. David Strahl to continue as interim human resource manager for the city of Crest Hill.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderperson Oberlin. Questions or comments of the motion? Roll call, please.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
John Burchett.
Yep.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
and Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, with the appointment and the advice and consent of the council having been made, in discussing this with Dave, there was a request that an independent contractor agreement be entered into to accompany this appointment. I have drafted the agreement. It's still in draft. It is on the dais with each of you. The current draft is good as far as Dave is concerned. There are a couple of outstanding items which I'm asking your consideration that you approve a resolution approving the independent contractor agreement in substantially the form as what you have in your on the dais with you, subject to final attorney approval and modification of these last outstanding items. Obviously, if there is some sort of a stumbling block that is a major change, I will bring that back to you. But again, as long as it's in the substantially the same form, that's the motion that I am recommending be made, that it be approved in substantially the same form, and then we'll get a resolution to go along with it, and hopefully that can be executed by the mayor without any further input or need to have it back before council.
So moved.
I had a question, Mike.
Sure.
How would this affect his start date? These recent changes that are,
Well, the way the agreement is phrased is it's effective upon the last signature. So as soon as it's signed, he would be able to begin under the terms of this agreement. I don't know that there was any discussion, and I don't know, Glenn, if you can address this as to whether he was going to work and continue with any outstanding projects in the interim with the agreement to catch up to it. But right now, the agreement isn't phrased that any work done before the date of the agreement executed would be compensated.
Yeah, so we've got some pending work going on now. I'd like to get them as soon as possible, council's concurrence, and then obviously we could back that off into the contract.
So I can,
And I can contact him this evening if council approves and let him know we'd like to see him in the morning.
well, and then I can add something in the contract that says that any work done prior to the effective date of the contract, so long as it's approved by the finance department, would be included, or some language to that effect. That would not, in my view, substantially change what you have in front of you.
I'm good with that.
So moved as presented with the additional language. Second. Same language.
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal. Questions or comments?
Mayor, I just have one question / comment. Thought we were going to get an opportunity to kind of discuss the terms here a little bit more in detail before voting on this. If that's not the case, then I guess you call the vote.
All right, that'd be for a motion to approve a resolution approving an independent contractor agreement with David Strahl as the interim human resource manager, consulting services. Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick comment. I know nobody likes HR, but I'm requesting for all the staff and elected official that Dave Strahl will be treated respectfully as he deserves. Thank you, Mayor.
Roll call, Chris.
Darrell Jefferson,
yes.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert,
No.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay. Motion carries. Resolution 1199.
So I will get you Resolution 1199, Karen and Madam Clerk, I'll get that to you tomorrow along with the agreement, if such as it is, until it's worked out, but we can hold off on the actual execution until the last negotiation is complete. And with that, I have no other agenda items, but I'm happy to answer any other questions before I make my...
Any questions of city attorney?
I just have a quick question, just to reiterate what you said last week. Will you be able to have the the ordinance regard the gun range with the city limits for next work session, January 8th?
And which ordinance is that? I'm sorry?
The ordinance that I spoke about last city council meeting about the gun range.
Okay.
The 8th is getting pretty full. It's going to be a long night. I was on my agenda tomorrow to call Fire Chief O'Connor to see if he can make the 22nd.
As long as it's on record that nothing will happen, because we need to pass this ordinance. We need to look at this ordinance.
No, I'm happy to draft the ordinance, and I'll do it whenever you want it. I'm just, when you say nothing will happen, I want to make sure I'm not guaranteeing nothing will happen unless I know that I can guarantee that nothing will happen. So, I mean, you mean no permits would be?
I'm not sure why the mayor is laughing. I don't think it's funny that we're gonna have a gun range behind our homes without being notified.
So you mean?
So as I stated last meeting, I wanna make sure before everything goes in, or any contracts or any construction started, that the city is aware and this ordinance will be ratified and we need to look at it.
And so what I think I said was that, and I asked the mayor, was it made clear to the fire protection district that they need, before they will be allowed to do anything in Crest Hill, that they need to come to us with a set of plans and go through our permitting process. And as long as that's happened, that has been conveyed, I don't think anything can happen until they come to us through our formal process, which means either plan commission or building department, or however we would process a permit to do anything, whether it's a gun range or a construction company. But I will have the ordinance ready to go whenever you want it. I mean, I can have it ready for discussion at any time.
Thank
Again, I think it'll be on the 22nd work session. We'll have them here.
But also
And-
regarding my comment, I just wanna clarify one thing, that I am not against Lockport Fire Department. I am against the gun range, again, right by our homes. And I'm against how the process goes in this city and the way some people in this city, they were aware of it and the council was not notified. So I just want to make clear, I'm not against. I think that's going to be a nice addition to Crest Hill, the fire thing, but I'm not for the gun range in Crest Hill. Just for
And
the record.
I need to look into it, but if the ordinance is to change our zoning, then that's going to require public hearings. So I will find that out and I will email the council and tell you what the process would be to amend your zoning ordinance to make some type of further restriction on gun ranges, either as a special use or as a prohibition. If it's going into the zoning code, we'll have to go through it as if it was a text amendment, which is going to require a public hearing. But I can
Whatever it
email,
takes.
And
I can
Maura's the contact person in that one. She's been working on that also.
is more up to speed on it? So, yeah, I can loop you in with Maura. She can weigh in any differently. But if it's going to be a text amendment to the zoning ordinance, it will need to go through a public hearing and the planning commission.
So there's currently nothing on the books about firing ranges?
I think Maura said, and I have not been able to actually speak with her, we've bounced back with voicemails and emails. I think her last comment on the subject was that because it's a governmental use, it would still be a special use even though it's not specifically either allowed or prohibited in the code. It doesn't say anything about gun ranges, but I think under that zoning, a governmental use would be, it would be okay okay as a governmental use, but only with a special use, but I gotta verify that with more.
Well, I just find it kind of alarming that we don't have anything in the code about gun ranges, but we have things in the code about everything else under the sun, including flagpoles for businesses. But, you know, it seems a little odd.
Thank
I
you,
can't
Mr.
take
Attorney.
credit for writing the codes, but I agree with you that, I mean, I think in a lot of the codes I've seen, gun ranges are addressed, usually as a special use. They're not outright prohibited. I mean, they're prohibited in residential or within such a distance of residential, or they're a special use,
As they should be.
so.
Okay, Mike,
All
thank
right.
you. You are excused.
All right, again, Happy New Year, everybody, and thanks.
Happy New Year, Mike. Thank you so much.
Okay, we also have with us Superintendent of Lockport Township High School, Dr. Bob McBride in the house, so it is my honor and privilege to introduce Bob, and he's going to give us an update in regards to Lockport Central Campus. He's going to give us an update in regards to Lockport Township High School, the entire district, and also the referendum that will be on the agenda in the primary for March 19th, 2024. So I'd like to introduce Dr. McBride to the podium. And,
Well,
thank
first
you
and
for being
foremost,
here.
yeah, thanks for inviting me. And first and foremost, Happy New Year, of course, and hope it's a great 2024. And thanks to all my colleagues here, we got some families, you know, as well. And thank you to all of you, one, just for being public servants and public officials and doing that good work. You know, I was talking to Claudia, somebody has to do that, and I'm grateful that you do it. And also thank you, Angela Adolph, our Director of Development, has been here before, and you've been very kind to greet her and extend some kindnesses to her as well. I'm here on behalf of our Board of Education. I don't know if there's only 7 of them, there's more of you. I don't know if they can vote as quick as you do, so you know, they extend their greetings to you as well. And as Ray shared with you, I'm going to walk through a number of things that really center on Central Campus. I've got some slides that will support some of the things that I'll share with you. What I would really invite you to do is just ask a question. I leave a formal time at the end of the presentation for questions. But if a question comes to you as we're moving throughout this, just ask it, you know, in context, and I'm happy to answer it and share with you what our Board of Education is thinking of as we try to shape and think about the future of our Township High School district. I'm going to go chronologically. I'm going to start in the past. Where did this story begin? Work our way into the present, and then give you an update of where we're at right now. Things have accelerated quicker than we ever anticipated them, and end with just a little bit of update of what's going on with us at Lincoln Way North as well. So just to kind of give you a little bit of preparation and research that we started, in 2020, our board really realized that we kind of looked over our shoulder. It had been about a decade since 6 referenda failed to build a new building of some sort 6 times at a property that we own in Homer Glen. And so the board asked me to start researching that, looking at that election, thinking about Central Campus, because that entire referendum effort was centered around a vintage building, now 114 years old. The first thing that we did is we just started, we began this right when the pandemic came. Strangely enough, the pandemic gave us a real opportunity to do this intensely. We did a structural analysis of the building in 2020. The simple thing is that was found to be a very sound structure, and there was a recommendation for about $500,000, about $500,000 worth of work to be done in terms of life safety, structural repairs, masonry, lintels, things like that. But also in that report, we began to notice larger and more major mechanical pieces of that building. 70-year-old boilers, for example. Late 1950s cloth electrical wiring that, you know, if any of us owned a 100-year-old house, we would have to start thinking about some major repair if we were going to stay in that house. And I think you're probably all familiar with this as well. This is a great facility. Ray showed me around it. You know, at some point you were having these conversations about your own city center. So in 2021, that summer, we actually completed those repairs. Every repair that was suggested, we completed it, but realized we had maybe come to the end of putting about $500,000 to $1 million a year into Central just to keep it going. That's when I began talking to the board about some of these major systems, like safety systems, HVAC, electrical, the potential of a failure, and that happens when things are old. 2022, the next thing we did is we did a demographic projection just to see in the next 10 years, what did we think our high school district would be? And we chose a demographer, and these were the 7 feeder districts as well, did it with us, who looked primarily at housing and how patterns of housing turn over in the communities that we serve. And we looked at housing because all the communities that we serve primarily have housing stock that is built for families that eventually come to school. And people who resell that, at what rate would they be reselling, and would that tell us about all the way out till 2032. Interesting conclusion of that was that we were not going to see a huge population increase. We were not going to see a huge population decrease. See ourselves stay at about 4,200, very steady. And that's been true 2 years into this study, but the study also predicted that we would see demographic shifts and changes. The demographer who did the study said that in his 35-year career, he's only seen 5 school districts that had every single trend in the nation in one small area. And we were one of those 5 school districts. And 65 square miles, you name it, ethnically, language, income, age, gender, we have almost every single demographic trend in the United States right here in this 65 square mile area that we serve. Makes us highly diverse, makes us changing quite a bit, got us really thinking about, what is a school that students will need going into the future. But as the demographer also said, makes it very difficult to make everyone happy because everyone is so diverse. So you have to keep that in mind. In 2023, we did, this past summer, we did a traffic study at East Campus. Oftentimes people look at the property behind East Campus. It's centrally located. For Crest Hill residents, it wouldn't be as far as our property in Homer Glen. Could you build right behind East Campus? We are bounded by 2-lane roads, and there's no plan by the county or the city of Lockport to expand those to 4-lane roads. And the conclusion of that traffic study was, do not bring more traffic to this site. We already have traffic congestion and problems coming and going, and so the recommendation was that more traffic coming to the site would lead to more congestion. With all of that information, we really started looking at options. In 2022, we put together a citizens committee to look at a single question: should Central remain a school? That committee was about 16 to 20 people, many of them in architecture, in construction, superintendents from our feeder districts, and we just asked that question. Worked with our architects, looked at the work that had been done on the building. The answer to that, the formal answer to that was yes. That committee felt that investing in Central Campus would be a good idea. It's centrally located. Renovation is about half the cost of new construction. You don't introduce things that can divide our communities, like attendance areas. No one has a new bus route. Everyone is coming to the centrally located building, 7 feeder districts. So those kind of changes, and all of our porters are coming to one campus and becoming porters at that historic place. We started doing tours of Central Campus. I was talking to Glenn, and Glenn has, as a student, been through Central Campus. We just found lots of people have never been in the building. Lots of folks. Next Wednesday, every Wednesday, up until March 19th, we'll run tours at 6:30. But we had about 300 to 500 folks go through Central Campus, and we asked them the same question: do you think this building should remain a school? All of that led up to, in August 2023, we had a concept presentation from our architects. We also, at the same time as we were doing those tours, we started having workshops with community members, with our staff, with our architects, DLA, taking a look at the building. We did not do architectural plans because those are very expensive, but what we did do was what would be a concept for renovation of this building if we moved forward with that. In the fall, we really started narrowing the scope. We had our first formal presentation of that concept plan in September. In October, our board pulled us back together and felt that the initial full renovation was too costly a burden on taxpayers, and asked me and our architects to go back to the drawing board for a more modest renovation proposal. Took a little sidestep in November and took a look at costing out 3 options: renovation, a new freshman building, and a brand new 471,000 square foot high school building. Renovation, we estimated, would cost about $85 million. A brand new freshman building, about $145 million. And then a brand new 471,000 9 through 12 high school building, about $180 million. In that cost are not the water and sewer we would have to put in if we built it our land in Homer Glen. Water and sewer is an issue in Homer Glen and on that property. That's somewhat a blocker. Ultimately, what the board decided was that renovation preserves a historic building. Renovation would be the lowest cost burden on taxpayers. Renovation doesn't introduce issues like attendance areas that can really divide communities, and they've defeated referenda in the past. And on November 20th, the Board of Education voted, as Ray said, to put it on the ballot on March 19th for an $85 million bond referendum. Probably the easiest way I try to explain it to folks is very few of us bought our house with cash. We did some form of mortgage, or if we renovated a home or a property, we used some kind of home equity proposition. And this $85 million bond issue would be something more complicated, but akin to that. Just a few things about the master planning process. This is the foyer, the Veterans Foyer in Central. It's unusual in that just won't see anybody build a room like this with that kind of wood paneling. It speaks to the historic sense of the building that it has for our community and all the porters that have gone through it. We went through a process where we did workshops, we did surveys over all of 2023. We had community engagement, we had community members, board members, students, staff members all come together really to try to look at the strengths, look at the areas of improvement, look at the opportunities that we see at Central. And we found a number of different challenges and opportunities that maybe hold us back. The ones in boldface, probably the most important ones: small classrooms, departments were spread out all over the building. We have huge issues with Americans with disability, accessibility. HVAC kind of works against the building. Without temperate HVAC, it's hard to control the temperature in the building. Lacking control really leads to a stress on an aged building, if you can control that. And then just, there's no spaces when students come into the building. There's no real gathering spaces for students. Students who come from, Richland and Cheney Mons say they get absorbed in the building and never see kids from Crest Hill ever again because the building is somewhat chopped up. So we came up, our architects recommended 2 solutions. One, infrastructure improvements, and then general remodeling. And our Board of Education asked the question, should we do only the infrastructure, the HVAC, the electrical, the roof, the windows, the Americans with Disabilities, stop there, or should we do general remodeling to modernize classroom spaces? Ultimately, they decided to endorse both of these solutions based on a 10-year life study plan that we just always have going. The infrastructure improvements proposed in this are code compliance, ADA accessibility, new sprinkler system for fire suppression, HVAC, air conditioning throughout, electrical wiring, roof, window solutions as well. The estimate for all of that work was about $40 to $45 million. That's one part of that bond concept. But then also looking at modernizing classrooms. Most of our classrooms are at Central about 500 square feet. If you walk into most schools, they're about 800 square feet. our architects believe that if you take out some of that old mechanical, you can actually start adding space to classrooms. Also, one of the interesting things, because we have some old space that isn't used anymore, we only use 67% of the building. There's about 30% of the building that we don't use at all. And if we reclaimed some of that space, we could actually open the building up quite a bit. So the general infrastructure improvements we're estimating about 40 to 45 million. General modeling, about 55 to 70 million for a total between 95 and 115 million. In 2009 terms, that construction budget was initially 142 million. In today's dollars in construction, it'd be about 200 million. Ultimately, our Board of Education asked us to go back to the drawing board, scale down a few things. I'll show you some of the things that they wanted scaled down from the concept plan. And focus really on major mechanical, life safety, Americans with Disability, and on classrooms. This is an aerial depiction of Central. You can see it's landlocked, really, with the exception of parking lot across the street. But what DLA did in terms of its concept is it just sort of going from the basement up, from the cafeteria up, how it could start reconfiguring Central and reclaiming space. So for example, in the upper right-hand corner, that green was previously locker rooms. Locker rooms we don't use anymore. They're just empty. Could you reclaim all of that space as actual classroom and program space? Just below it, in sort of a pink salmon color, is sort of a junk room. We just put maintenance things in there. It's kind of where we stuff stuff in the closet. Could you turn that into a more modern fitness center, for example? Also, you start to see, just colors kind of suggest this, pulling together departments. We have departments all over the building. So in that purple in the middle, those would be business classrooms. Some of the blue would be concentrating all the administrative offices and dean's offices. And then you see things like science labs together in the green, down a little bit lower in that light blue, pulling the English department together to really rethink and reshape as well as modernize the classrooms. Some of the things that our board decided not to move forward with would be things like large common spaces, a renovation of our auditorium and our cafeteria just because of the cost that was involved, or big sweeping common spaces like this or like this. These are other schools that we've visited, and instead really focus on places like our media center, focus on modernizing our classrooms, expanding them, and upgrading them. Science classrooms in particular, our science classrooms, every freshman at Central takes biology, and our science classrooms are dated and small. Collaboration spaces for students, and then also, we don't have any staff offices at Central, so something that's really needed as well. But at the same time, these are pictures at Lyons Township High School, the other LTHS, where our architects did work of just keeping components that are vintage components, but also modern walls, modern floors, so you have a combination of preservation and updating as well. Previously, we really thought of this as a phased project, phasing this out to 2024, and we would be doing quite a bit of this work over summers and phasing it out over about 4 or 5 years. Events in the past, couple months have sort of accelerated our thinking and decision making. We still have many decisions that we have to make. Let me just pause there. That is the basis and sort of the story of the referendum that our board is placing on the March 19th primary ballot. $85 million in bonds to renovate and to preserve Central Campus as a solution for the community. We've often been asked, why not new construction on East? Or why not new construction at our property in Homer Glen? Probably the first answer is the cost on taxpayers. That burden, $145 million at minimum for new construction, up to $200 million, be a heavy, heavy tax burden, the heaviest tax burden. Second is time. We're in need of a building now. We've kind of found ourselves in that situation. A new building, even if we approved it today, we wouldn't walk into that building for about 3 years. And we're in need right now. And then the third thing I should say, is just differences between communities. Looking back over our shoulder at 6 referendum efforts, there were tensions between communities over where, what was going to be built, and who would go to a newer facility and who would not. This proposal proposes that everyone who goes through our high school district would experience a brand new, renovated, and preserved site. Let me pause there and then update you what's going on now. No, you have questions about what's going on now. Yeah, so what's going on now? Things got a little accelerated. For a while, for about 2 years, as I was talking to the board and concerned that we might have a fail of a system, I don't think any of us anticipated that we would have a fail of a system. So on November 1st, 1928 plaster ceiling system in room 310, and that's significant because it's the 3rd floor, northwest. Makes sense to our forensic architects, 3 rooms, heating, cooling, very top floor, flat, dark roof. You might remember in the spring we had a lot of warmth, then we had a lot of cooling. Makes sense. And forensic architects, WJE, concluded that system failed simply because of age. There were no previous signs of stress, there was no cracking, bulging, warping. It just was old. Those 3 rooms have a different, bless you, those 3 rooms have a different system than really almost any other set of rooms. But ultimately, we decided as a school board to close Central because other rooms, a significant amount of rooms, enough rooms, for example, all of our biology classrooms, and every freshman goes in those biology classrooms, has a very, very similar type of plaster construction. And if there's any chance it's unsafe, we ultimately decided that we would close it. November 1st, we had the collapse. November 6th, that was Monday, we started having forensic architects figure out why and what to do about it. November 7th, when we realized the first day they were on the job that this was going to take much longer, we did not want to do remote learning any longer than we had to. We began talking to Lincoln Way School District 210, very generous board, excellent superintendent colleague, began talking about the idea of going to Lincoln Way North. Very next day, November 8th, we were standing in Lincoln Way North and asking ourselves, in a week, could we get this 8-year-old, shuttered for 8 years facility up and running? It closed in 2016. And it's a relatively brand new building. It opened in, I believe, 2008 or 2006. It was open for 8 years, and then Lincoln Way had to close it. And in a week, we opened it up. It was sort of a 24/7 effort for 7 days, but getting it back online for kids. We have a lot of adjustments we're going to make the second semester. We were talking, students from Crest Hill are spending a lot of time on the bus, and we regret that. We would prefer them spending more time in class, but also we want to avoid remote learning, and we're so fortunate that we have a brand new school building we can put kids in. Busing is working to Lincoln Way North. It's fairly efficient. It's working out. They had a shorter school day. We believe we've been efficient enough that we can elongate that day. We can add about 10 to 15 minutes to the day and make it a little less frantic. We feel like we're in a good place to do that. A few other adjustments. Where are we at right now? One question I've had is, why is this taking so long to repair these ceilings? We're in a tricky spot right now. 3 total rooms in the building were coated red, and those ceilings are already gone. They've already been removed. 14 were coated orange as moderate risk, but our board decided even moderate risk is risk. 73% of the building, its ceilings in every room, in every space, in every hallway were coated green. Sound, ready to go. But you might know from your own project here, or any kind of project that you've been involved in, first we had to do architectural plans for removal of those ceilings. Then we had to go through competitive bidding. We're just starting that bidding process to remove those ceilings. that we encountered, once all those ceilings are removed, now you have a rare opportunity to really look up and look behind with structural engineers in a building, and we feel like we should do that, so that's gonna slow things down a little bit more. Then we have to make architectural plans for any kind of repairs that are suggested, do competitive bidding again, do ceiling replacement, and ultimately set a return date to Central. All of that whole process is making returning to Central look like a horizon event, further and further out. And even right now, we're not sure how long that'll take. Once we have those ceilings removed, and we've got to get through the bidding, and we have to have the ceilings removed, but we just think we should have those structural engineers with that rare opportunity look up. In a lot of ways, our board feels we should do it right rather than doing it quickly, especially since we have a facility for our students. In a lot of ways, we are already in a renovation project. There's just really no way about it. Kind of bringing this back to center and wrapping up and answering your questions. Really what this all comes around is our board just feels it's so important to have a freshman center. We have 7 districts that come to us, having students all come to one place, become high school students together, and having a place that really can suit their needs is just important to our Board of Education. A couple of useful resources. Our district website has quite a bit of information on it. We have a page that is Central Updates only. We have posted online almost everything that you can imagine that's ever been inspected or looked at with the building. If you're wondering what it is or what Lincoln Way North looks like, it's on that site. And then also, for so many of our homeowners, just the bottom line, what would this mean for me? And we have a very easy referendum calculator to fill out. If you have your tax bill with you and you fill it out, you can just take a look. Questions?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew you'd have some, and then anybody else.
Well, you answered some of my questions already, but just like I said it earlier, I'm going to say that for the record. Before anything, I am thankful that my daughter and all the kids are safe. Through the week, sometime between basketball and running, and it gets really tough. Sometimes I have to remind myself that the kids are safe. So that's the only way we're going at this point, because it has been tough, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure
Sometimes
you're
doing
stretched.
homework at 10 o'clock at night in the bus is not easy, especially when they have to travel to different cities, long, like Barrington,
Right.
example. Just before I move on the questions that some of the residents asked me, you mentioned something about the ceiling, and I wanted to interrupt you. You said that right now they just took the ceiling away for bidding. From what you're stating, it looks like the kids are not gonna go back to the school this year?
They are going to, I would say that they're probably there's 2 opportunities to move. Spring break or June. It would be very, very difficult to move back in while school is in session. We did that one time, and it was extremely difficult. Just physically to pick up the building and move it back. And so when a little bit of a slowdown for us is we were rushing into tearing those ceilings out and just replacing them.
So,
But it really made us pause for a moment to say, wait a second, shouldn't we do a proper structural analysis? It's very rare in a vintage building, a 114-year-old building, where you have a ceiling that's removed and you can look up into it and really, really give it a good examination. We decided to take that pause, and that's going to add time. And that added time, plus with the competitive bidding process for any construction we do, could significantly slow things down.
So I have 2 questions on that
Yeah.
question. I'm just trying to understand this thing,
Mhm.
because it is, to me, it's a little bit complicated, because we don't have a definite date if they're gonna come back. And according to some teachers, probably not. Probably they're gonna stay in Lincoln Way.
It's looking less likely
Correct.
time-wise,
Now,
just realistically.
Why, there's two questions about that, or 2 comments. If the ceiling is you're still doing all this work, is it even worth it to do it since you're gonna go to referendum and you're gonna strip that building. So why are we spending money and then we're gonna go back and redo that? Did I
Right,
explain myself?
that's a really good question. In essence, that's what we're trying to avoid. One of the things we're trying to avoid is removing those ceilings, putting a very temporary structure up that we would only take down if that referendum passes. So we're trying, that's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
Okay, and number two, if it's only a couple classes on the upper floor, you cannot manage having the kids there throughout the class and just block the upper floor?
That is a really good question. I could open up and show some of the schematics. It is the 3rd floor, but it's also the 2nd floor, and it is the 1st floor. So there's a 1928 section of the building, and what we found is the plaster ceiling method that they used, state-of-the-art probably at the time, not state-of-the-art now. So it's not just on the 3rd floor. And there's also entire hallways that need their ceiling replaced. So even though it's a small portion of the building, for example, every single freshman goes into our science classrooms.
So you're gonna be renovating everything,
Right, so
all
those,
3 floors?
yeah, so those biology classrooms, for example, that are coded in orange, every student would need to get into those classrooms. And then there are hallways that you can't have people in the building without using those hallways. And some of those hallways have some of those ceiling systems that we've been, we received a recommendation to replace.
The other question I have is, you said the reason why you cannot build on east is because of the traffic. What about all these, when we go to all the games, which is everybody's there, when we
Right.
have actually not only the football game, which is it's crazy, not only you have people from home, glad you have all the grandparents, the parents, the uncle. I mean, it's just a madhouse right there. So doesn't seem like this affects the traffic. Yes, there is a lot of traffic and wait a long time.
Right.
But when you have school on a daily basis, the parents are not going to be there every day.
Right, well, so what I would
That's
say
like, I'm not
is,
understanding that part.
right.
I don't think that's a legit reason. I think it's going to be more than that you guys don't want to
Yeah.
add.
So imagine, when we have events like that, we have multiple events, we're having more traffic come to the campus than it's really designed for. Imagine that event. Imagine something in the auditorium, something in the stadium, maybe something in the gym, every morning, every evening, every day.
But it's
Right.
happening right now because all the kids are going to,
Right,
they're not
right.
going to Central anymore, they're going to East.
Right, I mean, you would
Every
hope
day.
that would be temporary, right? We hope that that's, but to
it's
create a,
functioning.
right, so one, to create a permanent condition, and I would agree with the traffic study. We have 2-lane roads, and if we had 4-lane roads and we were bounded, we could easily build behind there. But I've seen it, just like you've seen it, day in, day out. The traffic, if you brought another 1,000 human beings, their buses, and their teachers to the same site, you would make that a permanent condition, what you just described. But also, the other part of that is cost. We've heard from the community 6 times that they don't favor building a new building. And $145 million would be about a $600 to $800 a year increase in taxes. So it's hard for us, it's hard for our board to imagine that is, after 6 times the community said no, that is what people support. And the third thing is time. We need a building now. We don't have 3 years to wait. But unfortunately, without new construction in the past, we're in a situation where there needs to be some place to house, all of these students now. And new construction wouldn't crack open, for about 3 years. So it's a really tough situation, and you kind of see it exactly.
I understand. The biggest concern that a lot of Crest Hill parents they have, so as me, and the children that they're going, the students that they're going there, that as you know, I'm pretty sure you know, that there's some groups for the high school, and it seems like a lot of the Homer parents, they're making a lot of comments that Crest Hill should be eliminated from the school and that will solve the problem. As a parent, as a taxpayer money as well, we are obviously concerned that, is there any possibility that this will happen in the near future or future?
I can't imagine it, and you are referring to rhetoric that unfortunately is still
Yes,
out
sir.
there. And that was rhetoric that was very divisive in our community when previous referenda did not pass. I mean, I think everybody has to face the fact that in this 65 square mile area, these are our kids, you know, and folks can think about them as Homer kids or Lockport kids or Fairmont kids or Romeoville kids or Orland or Lamont or Crest Hill, but they really are kids. And, you know, as a superintendent, I'm always trying to get people to think about all of these youth who need a proper, you know, school site. So that's not something our board ever talks about. That's not something we can ever imagine. I don't even believe it's possible in school code, to be honest with you.
So are you telling me that Crest Hill will be safe to continue going to Lockport?
We hope so, you know. And I think in part, this idea of focusing it on Central really does have Crest Hill in mind because of some of the inconveniences we talked about. One might think that if we built in Homer Glen, that would be, well, it's just a little bit further, right? Well, a little bit further is a little bit further. And a little bit further is always somebody else's a lot longer. We think, you know, Central was built right smack in the central of the district, center of the district, and that's fair to everyone. And, you know, certainly, I think more amenable for Crest Hill.
I'm gonna stop with the questions.
Yeah.
That was one of the main ones that made the concern.
Yeah.
I know we have another parents there that they feel the same way. And yeah, we feel like the stepchild, obviously. Crest Hill always gonna feel that way. We do spend many hours
Right,
on
yeah,
that bridge.
for sure.
But again, we are blessed that our kids are safe, and I appreciate your presentation. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take my questions.
Yeah, I've taken up a lot of your time. Other questions, other things I can answer for you.
I just have a few comments. I
Yeah, thanks.
really want to thank you for your leadership with all of this as well. You guys have done a great job of kind of being transparent about everything that's going on. We certainly appreciate that. I guess the question I have for you is, what happens if this referendum goes down, and what does that really look like to all students of the Freshman Center?
Right, so that is an excellent question. We'll start on a strategy, have to have a plan B strategy, right? The reason why we're going out for a referendum, and I'm sure, you know, I'm telling folks who already know this, so really more for the public, is that once we go above our debt limit, the Illinois State Board of Education sets a debt limit for school districts. If we go $1 above that debt limit, we have to go to the voters. Our board has decided that it's worthwhile to ask the voters, let the voters democratically decide, do you want to renovate and fully preserve the building, or only complete the major mechanical? It's likely, because we need to have a functioning building now, that we would come to a stratagem to only address the major mechanical that would not involve going to the voters. But it also would involve renovation of classrooms, renovation of those types of spaces, modernizing those types of spaces. But we would have to have that plan ready to get students back, you know, from Lincoln Way North. That's not a permanent solution.
Yeah. Also, just another real quick comment. I really appreciate the fact that you're definitely trying to keep the Freshman Center concept. My own experience, I went from a small Catholic grade school in Joliet to Lockport Central in 1999 with 1,000 other kids, just in my class, 2,000 altogether, and it was very overwhelming. My very first class was in the cafeteria of Central in the basement, when the transporting used to go back between the schools. So my younger brother had the opportunity to go to Freshman Center the very first year that it existed, and he just the comparison between it, it's an awesome concept to be able to integrate the school kids into a bigger facility, but also the feeder schools, so they're with their friends. So
Yeah, and our board really believes in that. We have similar stories. I went to a small Catholic grade school, but a very large township public high school without a freshman center, so it was an overwhelming experience.
Well, I would just like to comment as a graduate of that school
Yeah.
from a bit ago. And when I went there, the juniors and seniors were at Central, and the freshmen and sophomores were.
Right.
And then all the college prep classes were at Central. So I spent most of my 3.5 years, I should say, at Central. And it was a beautiful building, so part of me is happy to hear that they're gonna attempt to renovate it because it really is a beautiful landmark and you hope it can be preserved and updated, and I'm so happy that's on the table. Even though I'm no longer in that district, I'm still hopeful.
And many people have asked me, have you attempted to sell it? Have you attempted a partnership? Maybe somebody wants to develop it. To make a very long story boring, we've looked into all those things, and just vintage buildings like Central, their future is demolition if they're not renovated and preserved. Because if we were developers and we wanted to come in and put loft apartments, we probably would not want to take on $40 to $45 million worth of infrastructure work. Why would that be profitable for us? So we really don't see, partners out there who would be interested in that kind of thing. That's another thing that really led us to believe that, history, preservation, people who have had parts of that building, can give it, a 50 to 70-year life.
Well, I don't have any questions, but I'm gonna make a comment.
Yeah.
The learning concept at that freshman center is unbelievable. I wish I had something like that when I was going into high school. I think it works. I think it's very effective. I have not had one student or one family say that this concept does not work, because I think it's a great transition from any size of a grade school that you come from to make those core friends that you'll have for the rest of your life in a freshman center. And when you move the next year into Lockport East with the 3 other years of students there, it's less cumbersome. You already have your group of friends and you can make a lot more friends. And I think that transition from freshman center to Lockport East makes things a lot easier also. I think the history that you talked about, how many students went through that school, even when that was the only high school for Lockport Township for many, many years. The students, the families, the grandkids and great-grandkids that have gone through that building. The history is unbelievable there. And, I'm a firm believer that a community is only as strong as your school districts. We have great school districts here with Cheney, Manji, and Richland. We have a great school district with Lockport Township also. And I think that that's important. In a community, like I said, a community is only as strong as their school districts. And I'm also a firm believer that, we as adults, we as parents, even though we may not have any children in the school now, we have an obligation, we have a duty and a responsibility also. Somebody took care of us going through school, whether it was public or private, when we were young kids. And we have to give our young individuals of our community every opportunity there is available to give them a fighting chance as they proceed into their adult life for job opportunities and to become future doctors, lawyers, whoever. But I think that's our part of our responsibility. Is this a big cost for the referendum? No matter which way you go, it's a very large cost. And I'm sure there's gonna be people that disagree with it. There always is. But at the end of the day, I think we have a responsibility that we have to try to give every child, no matter what municipality you come from, we have to give them an opportunity to learn and get the best education that they can. And when I read your newsletters every year, Lockport Township was always very high in those numbers. And that's a credit to you. And it's a credit to you for everything you're going through here. I'm sure you never imagined anything like the roof collapse.
Did not.
Thank God nobody was in that school when it did collapse.
No, that
was a godsend.
it is a godsend.
And I will tell you that what Lincoln Way School District has done for Lockport, and I know it's not ideal. I know it's a long drive. But what's the alternative? The alternative probably would have been split schedules, which that would have been even a worse alternative. And so, the good thing about young students is they're adaptable, and they can adapt. And, is it ideal? No. But this is probably the best option that I think that we've had. And I think we have to be thankful to Lincoln Way High School also.
Very much so.
For offering that. And I remember when the tornado went through, Bob, went through Crest Hill in 1990. And Plainfield Central was demolished, and that was the only high school in Plainfield for the entire town in 1990. And that's the year that Joliet Catholic merged with St. Francis Academy.
Right.
And became Joliet Catholic Academy. And Plainfield went to Joliet, the old Joliet Catholic down on Hickory Street for 3 years.
Right.
And again, it was a godsend that that was available for them, because I don't know what they would have done as a municipality and a school district when that tornado went through. So, you know, I know I did the taping that you had for the individuals a couple weeks ago, and again, I'm in full support of it. I think that this is something that we need to step up as adults and say, yeah, we need to make this work. We need to get the renovation started, and we have to have opportunities for all of our kids. So that's my comments. I just want to say thanks, because it was a great presentation.
Thanks for taking up a ton of your time on a light agenda night. You know, ultimately, our board decided, they certainly could have made the decision, and said, we'll do this, but they ultimately decided that, you know, the people should decide the extent to which they want that building to have a life. That's really your choice, their choice. And then they'll have to have a plan, you know, based on that voice. So thanks so much for your time. I don't want to leave anybody, you know, if you have a question, but you have more than just me on the agenda, and you've been already incredibly generous, so thank you very much, you know. I'm going to unplug, and I'm easy to find. Ray has all my contact information. If there's anybody who needs something from me, I'm happy to meet with you, talk to you, call you, you know, anything that you need to follow up. So thank you so much on behalf of our board. Really appreciate you. Appreciate your work, you know, as well. So cheers. Thank you.
Before you go, if anybody in the audience?
Yeah, anybody
Comment, as long as you're here.
answer something?
I mean, this is my third at Central.
Could you just please come up to the podium? Name for the record, please. Addresses.
Yeah, come on.
Michelle Rudman. I just want to say thanks to Dr. McBride. Like, this is our third kid who's at Central. Unfortunately, none of them have had quite a normal year. We had COVID, we had remote learning, and now we're at Lincoln Way. But as a teacher who teaches in Richland, seeing our little school, like our 100 kids who leave Richland and go to Central, that's like eye-opening when they get there. But then to have them go to East without having a Central, I think a lot of them would struggle emotionally and academically. So I really hope that our community will vote yes.
Anybody else? Thanks, Michelle. Anybody else like to make a comment? Okay. Dr. McBride, thank you very much for being here, for taking your time of your night too. Also, I'm sure you'll be going around to a lot of the municipalities and giving a lot of the
I am,
updates.
and to the Alderwoman's point, I was very happy that my first presentation was to the Crest City Council.
Very good.
So when I had the opportunity to make you the first, you know.
Thank you.
All right, you have a good night. Thank you. All right, we're going to go back to the agenda items. And we are going to go back to the approval of the minutes. You have before you the minutes of the city council meeting held on December 18th, 2023. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Jefferson, seconded by Alderwoman Gazal for the approval of the minutes of the city council meeting held on December 18, 2023. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay. And Darrell Jefferson,
Yes.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And you have before you the minutes of the work session held on December 26, 2023. Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Gazal, seconded by Alderman Dyke for the approval of the minutes of the work session held on December 26, 2023. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Nate Albert,
Yes.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay.
Yes.
Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal,
Yes.
Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
and Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our Public Works Department. Our Director of Public Works, Blaine Klein. Good evening, Blaine.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and Happy New Year to all of you. I have no items on the agenda tonight. I did just have one comment. We were finally able to get the last two doors here in the executive conference room soundproof, so that has been taken care of. I know that was something that had been asked about previously by a few members of council and staff, so that has been taken care of, and that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, any questions of Public Works?
So you think that that room is ready to be used now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, to my understanding, that was the last two
Very
items.
good, thank you to you and your staff.
All right, thanks, Blaine. Moving on to our city engineer, Ron Weedman.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything on the agenda. If there's any questions by council that I can address.
Any questions of city engineer? Thank you. Moving on to our police department, our police chief, Ed Clark. Good evening, Ed.
Evening, Mayor and Council, Happy New Year. I don't have anything on the agenda this evening. I do want to update council and let you know that our 33rd officer, Edgar Dorado, has started the police academy this morning. And we also had started our replacement for our clerk's position. Jackie Holgan began her time here this morning. So I just wanted to update you that we're moving forward, and I'll entertain any questions.
Questions of our police chief?
I have a few, but I want to ask them after the meeting's over.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Mayor's report, all my agenda items are done. There was a lot of people that were on vacation the last 2 weeks, as normal. So everybody just came back. Today was our first day back. So that's why this is a very light agenda. And that's why I asked you, Bob, if you were available tonight, because I knew that we'd have a lot of time for this tonight. So thanks again to you for taking time out of your busy schedule to give us the update. Moving on to...
Mayor, I just got one comment for you, maybe to relay to the owners of Gas and Wash. I really appreciate how quickly they moved on some of the concerns that we had at the last meeting. I mean, it was literally the next day that he had some of those barricades up, preventing people from turning left onto the right-in, right-out on Weber. So if you could just relay the message, that I certainly appreciate their quick response to that.
I will, Ron. I'm sure you'll see them before I will, from Gas and Wash, and you can make those comments public
Okay,
to
will
them
do.
also.
Thank you.
Moving on to our city clerk's report. Our city clerk, Christine Verche Hall.
Good evening. I have nothing to report tonight.
Any questions of the clerk? Thank you, Chris. City treasurer's report. Glenn Conklin. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to report regular and overtime payroll from December 4th, 2023 through December 17th, 2023. The amount of $241,919.27. The only item I seek action on is I'd like to see a motion to approve our list of bills issued through January 3rd of 2024 in the amount of $311,124.37.
So moved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderperson Oberlin, seconded by Alderman Jefferson for the approval of the list of bills. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Joe Kubal,
Yes.
Scott Dyke,
Yes.
John Rashay. Yes. Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Claudia Gazal. Yes. Tina Oberlin,
Yes.
Mark Sepiti,
Yes.
and Nate Albert.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take questions if you have them.
Questions of the treasurer? Thanks,
Thank you.
Glenn.
Good night.
Unfinished business, we have nothing. Anyone? New business, anyone? Committee liaison reports, anybody? City council comments, positive city council comments? Anything you'd like to share with any of your constituents? We'll begin with Ward 4, Alderman Kubal tonight.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Albert,
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Sapiti,
Nothing tonight.
Alderperson Oberlin.
Well, I think everyone should give some deep thought to what the gentleman from Lockport Township High School said, because I do agree that our children are our future, and if we want a brighter future, then we need to take care of our children. It's that simple. So I know everything is going up in prices, and every time you turn around, everything costs more, but so does education, unfortunately. So keep that in mind when you go to vote.
Alderwoman Gazal.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Alderman Jefferson.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Verche.
Well, I wish everybody a merry, happy new year and a healthy and a safe 24.
Alderman Dyke.
Just hope everyone has a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2024. Hopefully this year's a better year for everybody.
Okay, public comment. Maureen, you want to address city council? Your name for the record, your address is optional.
Thank you very much for letting me come. My name is Maureen Denny. I live at 1837 North Prairie Circle Drive. and I have lived here for 33 years. I observed the vacant house at 1839 North Bury Circle, next door to me, had a running stream of water coming out of the back area. This home has been vacant since September 1st, 2023, and I didn't know who to call, so I called Public Works. That's the only department I was thinking of doing, and by the way, kudos to your department. They were there in about 5 or 10 minutes with 2 trucks, and they were out with the scanners looking for whatever was causing them. It was discovered a pipe burst inside this house, and the Public Works turned it off, turned off the water. My question is twofold, but there's more to this, because it really affects all of us that live in Crest Hill, if I'm right? We all live here, we all own our homes, and we're stable. But this property has been a rental property now for like 3 years. And it's slowly sliding down. They complain to me, they complain to these absentee landlords and these corporate-owned properties that own these properties. No one fixes them. No one comes up. They just continue to complain and then leave. This couple that was in here were really great people. I liked them a lot. They invited me in. The house was clean. Carpets, everything, beautiful people. I wanted them to stay. Said, no, too much is wrong with this house. We're not staying. I won't buy it. It's too much work to do. We'll find something else. Well, they moved out September 1st. Obviously, they didn't turn the water off, but nobody came. Nobody came to that house. It's been just sitting there for 3 months. Then all of a sudden, I noticed there was a lockbox on it, so I assumed someone from real estate or something came there. You know, when you think about it, these houses, they're part of our community too. I mean, if it's being let go and people are buying these houses, that's great. But when something happens to the house and nothing is done, it took me a week to find out who owned the house. I wanted to know who owned the house. And I finally got some phone numbers of a bank in Des Plaines, Illinois, that owned the house. So I finally got that phone number, and I called it, and I finally got some ladies that says, yes, we do own that place, but I can't give you any information. Let me get you to someone who can. So I sat for another 15 minutes listening to music, and that person got on the phone. She said, I can't give you any information, but the house has been sold. Seems like that's what they do. Take tax write-offs, don't repair the house, don't rent it because they can't, because there's something wrong with the house. And then when you finally get them, you guys know because they pay their taxes. You know who these people are. I don't. But then she said, we sold it, and I can't give you any information. It's like a little checker game they're playing with a community that could now have houses that become blight in our area. On the second block down on Bury Circle Drive, excuse me, I'm a little nervous. I'm not really an extemporaneous speaker. That house now is boarded up. What does that do to the house values? I got every penny I own, everything in that house. I don't have a lot of money. I'm 82, I'll be 83 in February. And I see this easing away. Because eventually I'm going to have to sell. Even if I die, the house is going to be worth something. But I'm just thinking, how can we change this? How can these houses become better? How can we pressure these guys to come and fix these places? I don't care who rents in my neighborhood. I don't care. As long as they do put their garbage out and are quiet and sleep at night, you know? You don't expect much in a neighborhood, but I love my neighborhood. I love Crest Hill. I'm in the older section. And I'm here to tell you, something's got to be done. There's got to be pressure made, or we're going to start seeing even more damage doing to these houses. And you can't reach them. But they pay taxes. They pay taxes here. So you guys know who they are. And that house at 1839 was really, really a nice house. Better than mine. And I keep mine up. And now I'm seeing water, a broken pipe inside. Can you imagine the damage that's been done to the flooring and all of that? Are they going to come and fix it? No one has been there. This was, Public Works has their thing on there where we called and what they did. Were you able to get a hold of the owners of that house? What is the requisition if something happens like a fire? No one knows who owns the house. How do you let them know?
So we work with the building department. Obviously, you called. I spoke to you directly, so we came out and did our part. Obviously, there was nobody in the home. It was vacant. So we let our building department know. They come out, try to get a hold of somebody. I believe they went through the similar process.
So it goes from your department to another department to let the owners know that they have had damage done to the house that they own.
Well, to try to see who owns the home, who to contact, and they go through the same process. I can't speak on that process directly since that's a different department, but they run into similar issues sometimes, their properties in flux.
I don't know if they care.
Yeah, Maureen, first of all, thanks for the nice comments you gave to Public Works.
Pardon?
Thank you very much for the nice comments you gave for Public Works and how quick they responded.
Yes, they did.
So that's-
Honest to God, they were there right away.
That's
It's
very
amazing.
appreciated. I will speak with the building commissioner tomorrow. My guess is that there's probably also already a paper trail after Public Works was in there. They probably have already reached out. A lot of times we do have a lot of rental properties in the city of Crest Hill, which is not easy to handle sometimes. And sometimes it's a very, very slow process to get the attention of
I
the
know that.
landlord.
I know
because
that.
most of
It's a
the
slow
landlords are not
process
local.
because,
So it's a process that sometimes takes longer than people wish to have happen. But I will speak with our building commissioner tomorrow, see where they're at with everything, and see if we can get a little bit more action on that one.
well, I just thought I'd bring that up because we don't want that happening to our city like
Agree.
it sometimes happens, you know? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
you all.
Anybody else? Linda?
Could I pass something else to the council?
Linda Dyke, 1700 Kelly Avenue. I'm here regarding 4 different residences. 1709 Wilcox, 1815 Wilcox, 1618 Prairie, and 1809 Inner Circle. The picture in front of you is 1709 Wilcox. It's a residence that's about 3 houses behind me. 3 years ago, at that rental property, a resident was bit, and her and her dog were attacked by someone at this residence. At that point, she was told by police, maybe you shouldn't walk your dog on our street. Maybe you should walk your dog at the mall or take it somewhere else. I wouldn't go near that house. She was very offended. She'd been a longtime resident and a taxpayer. Since then, there have been many, many occurrences at this residence. I'm going to give you a synopsis of the last few weeks. On December 10th, a resident of Wilcox called Scott and I to let us know that a vehicle has been parking in the driveway, running all night long, and then putting the windows down on the car. They're also going into the garage and sleeping. They come in with backpacks on. On December 23rd, the Will County Sheriff's Police pursued a vehicle who eluded them to guess what residence? 1709 Wilcox, again. On December 24th, I was called. Scott and I just got home from a Christmas party, telling me about a girl driving a bicycle from that residence with her pants down. Imagine that. I thought, really? So I took a ride. I followed this girl on the bicycle. She went to 3 different residences, cars, tried their doors. On Clement Street in the 1700 block, she was inside a vehicle. The bike was at the curb. I had someone call the police. I continued following her. She went up to K&D gas station, behind the gas station, with whatever she had stolen and put it behind there. When the police officer arrived, she asked me, "How do you know that wasn't her car?" I said, "Are you serious?" She pedaled, pants down, 3 vehicles, finally got into one. Did she own all 4 of those cars? I don't think so. I don't know about you, but when I leave my house, my pants are up. 2 days later, on December 25th, the neighbor with cameras witnessed 2 men who frequent that 1709 Wilcox house try car doors out in front of the house to one of his neighbors. Couldn't get in the car, they were locked. On December 27th, a police chase out of Joliet. A stolen vehicle hit a tree in the 1800 block of Kelly. 1 block from my house. I heard it go by. I thought, oh my God, someone's gonna hit my house. Well, they hit a tree. The man eluded the vehicle. He was apprehended. Guess where? 1709 Wilcox. Very scary. On Friday, December 30th at 4:30, I was just leaving work when I received a phone call. You wouldn't believe what we're seeing. A car, doors wide open, throwing items out. It belongs to the 1815 Wilcox house. By the time I got home, I took a ride. Yep, I seen the vehicle. The police rode by and never stopped that car. Then the car sped off out of the area. The police car was parked in the 1600 block of Wilcox. I stopped. I asked him, "Are you going to question them or pull them over?" He said, "Who are you? And how do you know what happened?" I said, "Who am I? I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm Linda Dyke. I've been a resident of this town for 66 years. I'm the wife of an alderman. I live on the corner right there. And I'm trying to take back my community because this is unacceptable." That's who I am. The K-9 officer in the seat preceding him kind of chuckled. I said, "Oh, you think this is funny?" I don't think so. I don't think it's funny at all, and it's not a joke. We have a neighborhood watch. We call each other constantly. It's almost ridiculous how much my phone rings. I'm appalled at this house. It has had 100 police calls to that residence. They've never had a rental inspection. The House of Prairie has had 22 police calls. We have an ordinance in effect, which I have and handed out to you. This ordinance isn't worth the paper it's wrote on. It's never been enforced. I told my husband, "Scott, when we retire, we got a big house here. We don't have to move. We're gonna open up a brothel and a drug house. You know what? We'd be in more trouble if we had our garbage cans at the curb." These people have nothing done to them. There has never been a letter sent to him. I hate to say this, Mayor, but we're losing this city. We are losing our city. It's terrible. I have residents calling, they can't even sit out in their yard. They're afraid because they're going to be approached. What's going to be done about this? What is going to be done? totally disgusted. And we have a nuisance ordinance. And if you read in this ordinance here, a rental property that has all these things, violations, delivery of a controlled substance, prostitution, we've got it all there. If anybody's looking for a good time, come and ask me. You don't have to go far, right down my alley. And look at the garbage that's thrown out there. A dead tree that's fallen. I believe the alderman found out how many citations have been written there.
They've been written citations and fines have been assessed to them and nothing's done. We have other issues with fines and stuff not getting done. I don't know if we need to take it to a higher court than what's being done here at City Hall. But there's a lot of them that continue on and go on, and these people just don't care. They don't pay the fine, they don't show up to the hearing here. So I don't know if we need to take it to Will County Court instead of just having it done here at City Hall. Maybe we can get more results that way.
And I'm not against police. I have a son that's a police officer. I have the ultimate respect for police. But when somebody thinks it's a joke, when you're calling, I don't find that funny. And I have to get in the car and take a ride, and I know he gets mad at me, because he's like, you're gonna get shot. I said, well, maybe that's what it's gonna take. Maybe I'm gonna go for a gun license. This is out of control. I went out to get a package off my porch. Amazon stopped within seconds. 2 were coming up my sidewalk. I said, get out of here before I come outside. So, what are you gonna do, Ray?
I know that the house is a problem. I will say that I know.
Been 3 years, Ray.
I know that the police chief has worked diligently on this for a long, long time. Certainly is not from lack of effort that we're at where we're at today.
Why can't we go after the landlord?
We do go after the landlord. The landlord is not cooperative with us. And I know that the police chief has tried many times, through letters, through phone calls, through attorneys, to make contact with the landlord. And it's difficult. It's difficult.
Do a drug bust over there, shut them down. They're living in the garage. This is ridiculous. Twice we went home, they're in my garbage can. I'm gonna run them over. I'll run them over. I've had enough. And I think all the residents around there have had enough too. You know, you got a lot of good people in this town yet, and they're gonna go. They're gonna be moving out of here, and you know what you're gonna have here? A lot of houses like that. And it's gonna be a sad day for Crest Hill.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. There is not a need for an executive session this evening. So I ask for a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion for an adjournment by Alderman Dyke, seconded by Alderman Boucher. Roll call, please.
Claudia Gazal.
Yes.
Tina Oberlin.
Yes.
Mark Sepiti.
Yes.
Nate Albert.
Yes.
Joe Kubal.
Yes.
Scott Dyke.
Yes.
John Verche.
Yes.
And Darrell Jefferson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, meeting is adjourned at 8:29 PM. Thank you and good evening.